Hi everyone, my name is Anna and I'm the Collections Manager and Registrar here at the Boonshoft Museum of Discovery in Dayton, Ohio. And today I am here in our awesome Ancient Egypt exhibition. We have a lot of really cool artifacts on display from ancient Egypt, but the centerpiece of this exhibition is Nesir. And Nesir is our very own mummy here at the museum. We've had her since the 1920s, and ever since then, she's been inspiring Daytonians of all ages to learn more about Egyptian history and culture. But one question I'm sure you have is how the mummification process works. How did ancient Egyptians mummify their dead, and how was this process so effective that Egyptian mummies were preserved for thousands and thousands of years? If you have these questions, you are in luck. Today, I'm going to be walking you through the ancient Egyptian mummification process step by step. First, let's talk a little bit about what mummification is. Mummification is just a way of preserving the body of someone who has died. Now, there are other ways to preserve a dead body, but ancient Egyptians preferred this method because they believed it gave the body the most lifelike appearance possible. And this was really important to the ancient Egyptians because they believed that whatever state the body was in at death would be the state of the body in the afterlife. It is important to note that not every single ancient Egyptian was mummified. Generally, only wealthy or powerful people, such as pharaohs, priests, or noble men and women were mummified. This is because the mummification process was very expensive, and average Egyptians could not afford it for their loved ones. We also have many mummified animals here in the collection at the museum. We have 2 cat mummies, 1 kestrel, and even a crocodile. Animals were mummified either because they were beloved pets and their owners wanted them to be with them in the afterlife, or they served as offerings to the gods. For example, people would bring cat mummies to Bastet, who was the goddess of protection and cats. Now let's move on to talk about the actual mummification process. You might guess that this process only took 1 day or perhaps a week, but this is simply not true. It actually takes more like 70 days to mummify a body using the same techniques that the ancient Egyptians used. The first step in mummification is to wash the body with a mixture of wine and water from the most important body of water in ancient Egypt, the Nile. But I've already washed this body, so let's move on to the next step. The embalmers would make an incision on the lower left-hand side of the abdomen. Then they would start removing organs. And they would remove all organs in the body except for the heart. Now, ancient Egyptian embalmers left the heart in because they believed that the heart was the source of intelligence and the spirit, which a person would need in the afterlife. Now, after the organs were removed, they were mixed with some salt and they were placed in canopic jars. Now, canopic jars are special jars which feature the heads of different gods and contain different organs. So this canopic jar has the head of Qabasanuf, the falcon-headed god, and he would hold on to a person's intestines. Now, after the mummification process was finished, the canopic jars would be buried with the mummy, so the organs in the body would stay together. The next step was to remove the brain. The brain was removed through a special tool, which is kind of like a hook. The hook would be inserted through the nose, and the brain would be removed piece by piece until it was fully out. The next step was by far the longest step in the entire process. The body would be placed in a substance called natron, which is a mixture of sodium bicarbonate, or baking soda, and salt. It would be left in natron for 40 days to completely dry out the entire body and make sure there was no moisture left in it. After 40 days, the body would be removed from the natron. At this point, it would be completely dried out. Next, the embalmers would place rags, plants, and herbs inside of the body. The plants and herbs were meant to act as a preservative to better preserve the body, while the rags were meant to stuff the body and make it look fuller like its normal appearance with the organs. So I'm just going to place some rags in our mummy. The next step would entail using hundreds and hundreds of feet of linen strips to cover the body completely. Now, the embalmers would also use resin, which was packed on top of these linen strips in order to kind of act as a glue and keep the strips on the body. So let's start wrapping. In addition to the linen strips and resins, special amulets would be placed inside of the wrappings. I'm going to be placing 2 special amulets, the Eye of Horus, also called a wadjet, and the heart scarab over the heart of our mummy. Now, the Eye of Horus is meant as a protection amulet. It's meant to protect the entire body in the afterlife, and the heart scarab is meant to protect the heart and spirit in particular. So I'm going to place those on there and wrap them into our wrappings as we go. After the body was completely covered in linen strips, the embalmers would take a cloth called a shroud and cover the entire mummy with it. Afterwards, the mummy would be placed in a sarcophagus, which is a coffin that's shaped roughly like a human. Now, the sarcophagus would often have names or prayers inscribed on them. Nessier's sarcophagus has her name written in hieroglyphs, as well as a prayer to the great god Osiris, asking that he give Nessier food and provisions during her journey to the afterlife. There you have it. That's the entire mummification process from start to finish. Now, the one amazing thing about the mummification process that surprises me so much is that it's so effective. We have mummies such as Nessier still really well preserved for over 2,000 years, sometimes longer. But why was it so effective, you might be asking? The answer essentially is bacteria. Mummification stops bacteria from feeding on bodies. Now, bacteria like to feed on organic substances like dead bodies. But the thing about bacteria is that they need water and moisture to stay alive. The mummification process dries out the body so that there's no water and no moisture in the body through removing the organs and the natron substance that we looked at. So the bacteria wouldn't be around to cause the body to decay and feed on the body, and it would be preserved just like Nessier is. I hope this video helped you appreciate how mummies such as Nessier were preserved thousands and thousands of years ago. If you want to learn more about the mummification process in Nessier, be sure to come out and visit us here at the Boonshoft Museum, where you can learn more about Nessier's story and see animal mummies and all kinds of other ancient Egyptian artifacts. Now, if you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.